Unit 1. Tape script 1.1. 1.
How long has Max been at summer camp?
Just 2 days.
2.
Is he having a good time?
No, not really. He's feeling very homesick.
3.
Is this his first time at summer camp?
No, it's not. He's been once before. Last year he went to Pine Trees.
4.
Did he like it at Pine Trees?
Oh, yes, he did. Very much.
5.
Why was that?
Because they did things like archery and mountain biking.
6.
What's he doing tomorrow?
He's making pancakes.
7.
Why does he want a cell phone?
Because all the other kids have theirs.
Tape script 1.2. 1.
How long has Sophie been in New Zealand?
Nearly a week.
2.
How long was she in Australia?
3 weeks.
3.
Who is she travelling with?
Catherine.
4.
Why does she like New Zealand?
Because it's smaller and cooler than Australia.
5.
Why did she like Kangaroo Island?
Because of the wildlife. She saw some platypus there.
6.
What's their car like?
It's okay. The lights work and it has a big glove box, but it sometimes makes strange noises.
7.
Which wildlife has she seen already?
She's seen dolphins, whales, and enormous albatrosses.
8.
Where are they going next?
They're heading up the west coast.
9.
Why is she sending Rob photos?
So that he won't forget what she looks like.
Tape script 1.3. 1.
Are you being served, sir?
Oh, just looking, thank you.
2.
I've heard that she's been seeing a lot of Patrick recently.
3.
I'll be seeing Bill this afternoon. I'll tell him the good news then.
4.
Apparently, he was overtaking on a bend at 70 miles per hour when they stopped him.
5.
I hadn't seen her since she was a little girl, and she'd changed beyond all recognition.
6.
Nobody will listen to him. He's the kind of guy who isn't believed by anyone.
7.
I haven't been told yet if I've got it. I'll be told in writing sometime next week.
8.
Do you have any idea which address it was sent to?
Tape script 1.4. 1.
At weekends, I often don't bother getting up till lunchtime.
Absolutely. Why bother if you don't have to?
2.
My parents have never had a crossword in all their married lives.
Really? Mine are at it all the time.
3.
I don't think I'll ever master this DVD player.
Well, don't ask me. I can't even find the on-off button.
4.
I was saying to a friend just the other day that I hadn't seen you for ages.
I know. How long has it been?
5.
I hate Mondays because nothing ever goes right on a Monday.
Just Mondays, eh? Huh. Aren't you the lucky one?
6.
I just arrived home last night when I realised I'd left my briefcase on the bus.
Well, you won't see that again.
7.
I was just getting ready to go out this morning when my grandmother rang for a chat. It's so frustrating.
I know, and you feel really bad if you say it's not a good time.
8.
I've been told that our teacher wears purple pyjamas in bed. Who on earth told you that?
9.
In my very first English lesson, I was taught to introduce myself and say hello.
I was taught to say the cat runs after the mouse and stuff like that. Useful, huh?
10.
The reason I'm learning English is because it's spoken all over the world.
True, but isn't Chinese spoken by more people?
Tape script 1.5. 1.
Heard about Jane and John splitting up?
No. Really? I always thought they got on really well.
Apparently not. John's been seeing his ex-girlfriend.
2.
Leaving already? What's wrong?
I just have a headache, that's all.
3.
Failed again. How many times is that?
OK. There's no need to rub it in. They say the best drivers fail 3 times.
4.
Sorry I'm late. Been waiting long?
No, I've just arrived myself. Got caught in traffic.
5.
Doing anything interesting this weekend?
Yeah, if you call housework interesting. I've just got to tidy my flat this weekend.
6.
Like the car. When did you get it?
We've had it a while, actually. Second hand, you know.
7.
Bye, Joe. See you later.
Yeah, I'll be round about 8.
8.
Just coming. Hang on.
Get a move on or we'll go without you.
9.
Want a lift? Hop in.
Great. Can you drop me in the centre?
10.
Seen Jim lately?
No, I haven't. I wonder what he's up to at the moment.
Tape script 1.6. A long-distance phone call.
Hello?
Dad? It's me, Kirsty.
Kirsty, how are you? How's it all going?
I'm fine, but still a bit jet-lagged.
I can imagine. What exactly is the time difference over there?
It's 9 hours ahead. I just can't get used to it. Last night I lay awake all night, and then today I nearly fell asleep at work in the middle of a meeting.
You poor thing. And what's work like?
It's early days, but I think it's going to be really good. It's a big company, but everybody's being so kind and helpful. I've been trying to find out how everything works.
And what about Tokyo? What's it like? Have you seen much of the city yet?
I've seen a bit. It just seems such a big, busy city. I don't see how I'll ever find my way round it.
I know. Big cities can seem really strange and frightening at first. Is it anything like London?
No, it's nothing like London. It's like nowhere else I've ever been. Masses of huge buildings, underground shopping centres, lots of taxis and people. So many people. But it's so clean. No litter on the streets or anything.
And where are you living? What kind of accommodation have you got?
Well, for the time being, I've been given a tiny apartment, but it's in a great part of town.
What do you mean, for the time being? Will you be moving somewhere else?
That's right. I won't be living here for long. I'll be offered a bigger place as soon as one becomes available, which is good, because this one really is tiny, but at least it's near to where I'm working.
How do you get to work, then? Do you walk?
Walk? You're kidding. It's not that close. It's a short subway ride away. And the trains come so regularly, it's a really easy journey, which is good, because I start work very early in the morning.
It all sounds really interesting, but are you enjoying yourself?
Again, it's too early to say. I think I really will be enjoying it all soon. I'm sure it's going to be a great experience. It's just that I miss everyone at home so much.
Oh, we miss you too, very much. Make sure you email us regularly. It's the best way to keep in touch.
I will, I promise. And you email me back with all your news. I just love getting news from home. Give everyone my love. Bye.
Bye, sweetheart. It's been great talking to you.
Tape script 1.7. 1.
I'm going away on business for 2 weeks. Do you think you could possibly water my houseplants for me?
No problem. I'd be glad to. I'll keep an eye on your whole flat if you like.
Oh, that would be great.
Don't worry. I know how house-proud you are. I'll make sure everything stays clean and tidy.
Oh, I'll do the same for you any time, you know.
Thanks.
2.
Julie, have you heard? Anna's just been made managing director of the UK branch of her firm, so she's coming back from the States.
Oh, that's great news. Let's give her a spectacular homecoming party when she gets back. She's certainly the career girl of the family.
Doing really well, isn't she?
I know, and I'm happy for her. Me, I'm just a housewife. 4 kids, homemade cakes and homegrown vegetables.
And how are my wonderful grandchildren?
3.
We're having a housewarming party on the 12th. Can you come?
Yes, you bet. We'd love to. But I didn't know you'd moved.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago. It's much bigger than the old one. Huge kitchen and 3 big bedrooms.
Ooh, sounds great.
Yeah. Mind you, there's much more housework to do.
That's a drag.
4.
Hey, you going to Carly's on Saturday?
I dunno.
It's a free house. It'll be great.
Cool. Where are her parents then?
Carly says they're visiting her grandma. She's sick and housebound, so they have to go and help.
OK, count me in. I'll be there.
Tape script 1.8. 1.
I'm going away for 2 weeks. Do you think you could possibly water my houseplants for me?
2.
Don't worry, I know how house-proud you are. I'll make sure everything stays clean and tidy.
3.
Let's give her a spectacular homecoming party when she gets back from New York.
4.
Me? I'm just a housewife. 4 kids, homemade cakes and homegrown vegetables.
5.
We're having a housewarming party on the 12th. Can you come? I'll give you our new address.
6.
Mind you, with it being much bigger, there's much more housework to do.
7.
Her grandmother's sick and housebound, so they have to go and help.
Tape script 1.9. Things I miss from home. Andrew.
Well, the thing I miss most when I'm away from home is definitely listening to the radio. And the way I get around this, particularly when I go away for 2, 3 or 4 months or something, is to take a small shortwave radio that I found and take great trouble to tune in this shortwave radio to get an English language station, something like the World Service. And I'm there waving the aerial around and twiddling the knob and trying to find the correct kind of station. But then suddenly when it all comes in and you can hear it, it's great. It really makes me feel like I'm back home, back in my bedroom, tuning in to weird programs on wonderful subjects, really.
Helen.
When I'm away from home for any length of time, something that I really have to have with me is my hair straighteners. I can't bear to wake up in the morning and be without them because my hair is most unruly and I would feel very uncomfortable having gone out without straightening my hair beforehand. So I have to take those with me whenever I stay with friends or go on holiday.
Gabrielle.
When I'm away for a little bit longer, what I do miss are my 2 cats, and I do take a photo of them. That sounds very silly, but I like to see them from time to time.
Paul.
If I'm away from home for a while, what I usually miss most is my bed. I like a good solid bed. In particular, what I find I miss if I'm in a hotel is a pillow that I like. I do find that hotels have this incredible knack of providing pillows that you just can't sleep with. There always seems to be 2 pillows on a bed, and if you use one, it's never enough. And if you use both of the pillows, your head seems to be just stuck up in the air. So I have thought of taking a pillow with me, but that seems a bit excessive. But again, connected with sleep, one thing I always do take with me is earplugs. I find they're absolutely invaluable if you're not sure where you're going to be in a hotel. And if it's very noisy, as long as you're quite used to sleeping with earplugs, they can be wonderful because you don't need to worry about traffic and people making a lot of noise in the next room.
Sylvia.
Well, when I'm away from home, there are several things I miss. The usual ones, my children, of course, and a good cup of tea. But something I realise I do miss is the news. And it's not that other countries don't have any news, but I'm very attached to a particular news programme and a particular presenter. And if they're not around to tell me the news, I can't quite believe it. It's very odd. It doesn't happen with papers. I'm happy to read another paper, but on the telly I like to see a familiar face and the same background colours, and it's all very reassuring, even if he's telling something dreadful. But what do I take with me? I always travel with a bag of snacks. I don't know why, because I'm just terrified of being hungry while I'm travelling and not finding anything I want to eat. Gosh, I didn't think I was so fussy. There you go.
Chris.
I think the thing I miss most when I go away for an extended period on holiday or whatever, especially if I go away abroad, is probably Sunday morning. And by that I really mean a lazy Sunday morning when I can get up fairly late, wander down to the newsagents, buy the newspaper, come back with a croissant and make a big pot of coffee and spend at least the morning and maybe a large part of the day just sitting around reading the paper, drinking coffee and relaxing.
Tape script 1.10. 1.
Great to see you. Come on in.
I was just passing and thought I'd drop in.
2.
Excuse me, don't I know you from somewhere?
No, I don't think so.
3.
What do you mean you're not coming?
Well, I just don't feel up to going out tonight.
4.
I think I'll have the chocolate mousse. What about you?
Let me see. No, actually, I don't think I'll bother with dessert.
5.
My flatmate can't make it to your party.
Really? That's a drag. I was hoping to meet her.
6.
How come you're not having a holiday this year?
We just can't afford it.
7.
You'll make yourself ill if you carry on working at that pace.
That's as may be, but I have to get this finished by Friday.
8.
I've got you the last 2 tickets for the show.
Oh, fantastic. I knew you'd swing it for us.
Tape script 1.11. 1.
Excuse me? Really?
2.
Chocolate. Fantastic. Dessert.
3.
What do you mean you're not coming?
Tape script 1.12.
Excuse me, is this yours?
Let me see. Yes, it is. Thank you. I must have dropped it.
Are you going far?
Yeah, all the way to London. What about you?
I'm getting off at Bristol.
Oh, do you live there?
Actually, no. I work in Bristol, but I live in Bath.
Lucky you. I think Bath's a beautiful city.
Yeah, you and thousands of others.
What do you mean?
Well, you know, the tourists. There are just so many, all year round.
Ah, yes, that's a drag. You don't like tourists, then?
Well, I shouldn't really complain.
How come? You can complain if you want.
Not really. You see, I'm a travel agent, so I make a living from tourists.
Tape script 1.13. 1.
Excuse me, don't I know you from somewhere?
Actually, I don't think so.
Weren't you at Gavin's party last week?
Not me. I don't know anyone called Gavin.
Well, someone who looked just like you was there.
Well, that says maybe, but it certainly wasn't me.
I am sorry.
2.
Tony, hi. Great to see you.
Well, I was just passing and I thought I'd drop in and say hello.
Come on in. Have a drink.
You sure? You're not too busy?
Never too busy to talk to you.
Thanks, Joe. It'd be really nice to have a chat.
Fantastic. Let me take your coat.
Unit 2. Tape script 2.1. Marco Polo, 1254 to 1324.
Marco Polo was the first person to travel the entire 8,000-kilometre length of the Silk Route, the main trade link between Cathay, China, and the West for over 2,000 years. He was born in Venice, the son of a merchant. In 1271, when he was 17, he set off for China. The journey took him 4 years. His route led him through Persia, Afghanistan, and Mongolia. He travelled by boat, but mainly on horseback, and he frequently got lost. He was met by the Emperor Kublai Khan. He was one of the first Europeans to visit the territory, and he travelled extensively. He went over mountain ranges, down rivers, and across deserts. He stayed in China for 17 years. When he left, he took back a fortune in gold and jewellery. He arrived back home in 1295. He wrote a book called The Travels of Marco Polo, which gave Europeans their first information about China and the Far East.
Tommy Willis, backpacker in Asia.
Tommy Willis is in Fiji. He's on a 9-month backpacking trip round Southeast Asia. He flew into Bangkok 5 months ago. Since then, he's been to Vietnam, Hong Kong, South Korea and Japan. He's visited royal palaces and national parks in South Korea and climbed to the summit of Mount Fuji in Japan. He's been staying in cheap hostels, along with a lot of other young people. "I've met a lot of really great people, but it hasn't all been easy," said Tommy. "I've had diarrhoea a few times, and I've been pickpocketed once. I've also been mugged, which was really scary." Apart from that, his only worry is the insects. He's been stung all over his body. He's been travelling mainly by public transport, bus, train and ferry, but when he's been able to afford it, he's also taken the occasional plane. He's looking forward to taking things easy for another week, then setting off again for Australia. "Once you've got the travel bug, it becomes very hard to stay in the same place for too long," he said.
Tape script 2.2.
He's been stung all over his body.
He's visited royal palaces.
He's been staying in cheap hostels.
I've been pickpocketed and mugged. I've met a lot of really great people.
He's been to Vietnam and Japan.
Tape script 2.3. 1.
When and where was he born?
In 1254 in Venice.
2.
How long did it take to travel to China?
4 years.
3.
How long did he stay in China?
For 17 years.
4.
What did he take back to Venice?
Gold and jewellery.
5.
What was his book called?
The Travels of Marco Polo.
6.
How long has he been away from home?
For 5 months.
7.
Which places has he been to?
Thailand, Vietnam, Hong Kong, South Korea and Japan.
8.
Where's he been staying?
In cheap hostels.
9.
How many times has he had diarrhoea?
A few times.
10.
Has he been pickpocketed?
Yes, once.
Tape script 2.4. 1. Alan.
They are one of the most eerie and strange experiences you can possibly have. The first time I saw them, they appeared as a kind of shimmering curtain over the top of a ridge of mountains, and they went from a greeny colour to a kind of purpley red colour, and they just stayed there. And the second time I saw them, it was the most amazing sight because they were right above our heads, and they covered the whole of the sky. The other interesting thing is that not everybody hears it, but they sometimes make a sound, a kind of buzzing noise. It was a real sense of wonder and awe. I just kind of sat there with my mouth hanging open, just feeling kind of small.
2. James.
You start at the bottom of the valley and slowly make your way up the hill, about a 7-hour hike until you get to a camp. Then you get up very early the next morning, about 4 o'clock, in order to get there for the sunrise. You walk for an hour or so, and suddenly you reach this point where you're looking down on this ancient city. just as the sun is breaking through the clouds. It's the most extraordinary sight. And you walk around in the total silence of a city that's more than 500 years old. At that point, it's invaded by thousands of tourists, and it's time to go.
3. Willow.
We got up about 5 o'clock in the morning. We went to the site and set off. Because you're floating with the wind, there was no breeze on you, and it really was like flying like a bird. You could look down on everyone, and they were all so small like ants. It was just amazing and so silent. And we landed about 7 o'clock, and suddenly we were back with the rest of civilization. It was just the most beautiful experience.
Tape script 2.5. 1.
When you go for a job interview, it's important to make a good impression.
2.
I think we're all getting tired. Can I make a suggestion? How about a break?
3.
A lot of research has been done into the causes of cancer.
4.
I think the director is basically doing a good job. He's reliable, he's honest, and he gets results.
5.
I'd like to make it clear right now that I am totally opposed to this idea.
6.
Right. I think we should make a start and get down to business.
7.
I don't mind if we go now or later. It makes no difference to me.
8.
Could you do me a favour and lend me some money till tomorrow?
Tape script 2.6. 1.
I'm so thirsty. I could do with a cup of tea.
2.
We've bought an old flat. We're going to do it up over the next few years.
3.
I think we should do away with the monarchy. They're all useless and expensive.
4.
I could never do without my personal assistant. She organises everything for me.
Tape script 2.7. 1.
Thieves broke into the castle and made off with jewellery and antique paintings.
2.
Jake's parents buy him loads of toys. They're trying to make up for always being at work.
3.
What do you make of the new boss? I quite like him.
4.
You didn't believe his story, did you? He made the whole thing up.
Tape script 2.8. Tashi Wheeler, Girl on the Move. Part 1.
Now, travelling. When did you start travelling?
When I was 8 months old.
And where did you go?
I think we did a lot of Southeast Asia when I was younger, and Galapagos Islands, Philippines and stuff like that.
And your first memories, okay, 8 months you started, but you presumably don't remember that.
Anyway.
What are your first memories of travelling?
Airports. What else? Beaches. It was a lot in Asia at the time, so it was always hot, big fruit drinks and, I don't know, lots of bus rides.
Was there a time at which you sort of felt, yeah, I quite enjoy this travelling, or was it... It sounds almost a bit of a chore, the way you describe it at the moment.
No, it was never a chore. I always really enjoyed it. I think I was quite comfortable. Mum used to say that when I was 2 years old, she just put me down and I'd just run off, and she wouldn't see me, and then someone would pick me up and bring me back, and I was quite happy fitting in everywhere.
What do you think were your best memories of travelling? I mean, what can you actually remember that still stands out years on?
From when I was much younger?
Yes.
Africa, when I think I was around 8 or 9, we went on safaris there and got chased by an elephant, had lion cubs jumping around the safari bus, monkeys swinging off the rearview mirrors and things. So that was, and trekking in Nepal is something I always remember. Getting up at like 4 in the morning and looking over all the mountains, and then just walking all day talking to porters and coming into villages and all the kids running out and seeing you and things. Just lots of amazing experiences.
Tape script 2.9. Part 2.
And when you were on these travels, I mean, did your dad sort of have a notebook and he'd be sort of stopping everywhere and writing detailed notes of everywhere?
Yeah, he's always got pen, paper and 3 or 4 guidebooks and other people's guidebooks and tomes.
And that must have made travel a lot slower for you as a family.
Oh no, he's hectic, Dad. We land in a country, his feet hit the ground and he takes off. We don't stop for 2 seconds. He gets up and goes out before we get up, comes back, gets us up, takes us to breakfast. We rush around all the sites, see everything, stop for one drink here, lunch somewhere else, dinner somewhere else. After dinner, drink somewhere else, takes us back to the hotel, then he goes out again and goes on all night.
Amazing, exhausting.
It is, it's really exhausting. We got to a point where me and my brother, what we really liked about travelling for a while was sitting at home and watching movies and getting room service. Because that was quite exciting and different for us.
This raises the question, of course, travel broadening the mind, as often said. Do you think it does?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think you can travel and not have your mind broadened. We saw everything, we ran around, and it was hectic, but at the same time, you knew it was an experience while you were doing it, especially as you got older, and you value it, and still do.
Tape script 2.10, Part 3.
I was going to say, we've talked a bit about, when you were really young. What about as you got older? I mean, how did the sort of experience and feel of it change as you became, say, a teenager and mid-teenage years and so on?
You always wanted to stay home some holidays. I mean, just before you go away, there'd be all your friends having parties and holidays and things, and you'd want to stay and hang out. But at the same time, you knew you were doing something different, and everyone's always asking you about where you've been and what you're doing. So it's a privileged situation, and you're lucky to have it.
Did that make it easier for you socially or not so easy? Being different in that way, in that you travelled sort of more than anyone really, hadn't you?
I think it had its pros and cons. I think for a number of years, especially around probably 13 to 16, I felt quite backward, I think, because I didn't really know how to get along with kids my age in my own culture and country and stuff. Just from travelling for so long in places, countries, cultures or whatever, where you can't talk to boys or you don't look at people in a certain way or you don't wear certain clothing or something. And I think, I don't know, just the adjusting back and forth constantly did make it a little awkward. The kids at school seemed to be cool and they had things going on and, watch TV and this program was good and this, and I was never up to date with all that stuff because I was constantly being pulled out of it and brought back. But at the same time, it did have that, I'd seen things, I knew things and stuff, just a broader view of life, I guess.
There is a view of travelling that you become a kind of world citizen, and the world is your home.
Melbourne's definitely my home, but I do feel comfortable anywhere, particularly in Asia. I don't know, I just feel like I'm coming home when I go back to Asia, and after living for a year in Paris, I love going back there, but it's not really my home, I guess. No, Melbourne is definitely my home.
Is there anywhere you don't feel comfortable?
I haven't found that place yet, but you never know, I might. I haven't been everywhere.
Your mother's not so long ago written a book about travelling with children, hasn't she? Is travelling, is that something you sort of advocate, travelling with children? Will you travel with your own children?
Yeah, definitely. I think, it's a time where your ideas, your personality is being formed, and I think it can only benefit you, really. I think it's something, and you don't have as much time to do these things when you're older, so try to fit as much of it in as you can when you're younger. Definitely.
So you'll continue travelling yourself, will you? Do you think?
I hope so. I really can't handle being in one place for too long. I get very itchy-footed.
Tape script 2.11. 1.
How's your steak? Is it okay?
2.
We were all going on holiday to Spain next week. We were really looking forward to it, but my father's been quite ill, so we had to cancel the holiday.
3.
Has Anne had the baby yet? It must be due any time now.
4.
Mind your head as you come through this door. It's very low.
5.
Do be careful. That bowl's really heavy.
6.
Did you know that they eat horse meat in some countries, and snails, and pig's feet?
7.
Look! Isn't that Peter over there, sitting on his own?
8.
Sarah told me that you hated me. She said that you never wanted to see me ever again.
9.
I saw Julie yesterday.
10.
Tomorrow's test has been cancelled.
Tape script 2.12. 1.
How's your steak? Is it okay?
It's absolutely delicious. Just the way I like it.
2.
We were all going on holiday to Spain next week. We were really looking forward to it, but my father's been quite ill, so we had to cancel the holiday.
Oh, what a shame. You must be so disappointed.
3.
Has Anne had the baby yet? It must be due any time now.
Oh, yes, haven't you heard? She didn't have one baby. She had 3. Tom's the father of triplets.
Wow, that's unbelievable. How amazing. Triplets. That'll keep them busy.
4.
Mind your head as you come through this door. It's very low.
Ouch! That really hurt.
I told you. Well, it isn't bleeding. Ooh, but you'll have a nice bruise.
5.
Do be careful. That bowl's really heavy.
Whoops! Sorry about that. I dropped it. Don't worry, I'll get you a new one.
6.
Did you know that they eat horse meat in some countries, and snails, and pig's feet?
Yuck! That's disgusting. You wouldn't catch me eating that.
7.
Look! Isn't that Peter over there, sitting on his own?
Hey, Peter! Come over here and sit with us. Let's have a chat.
8.
Sarah told me that you hated me. She said that you never wanted to see me ever again.
That's nonsense. What a stupid thing to say. You know it's not true.
9.
I saw Julie yesterday.
Oh, really? How interesting. I haven't seen her for ages. How is she?
10.
Tomorrow's test has been cancelled. Phew, what a relief. Thank goodness for that. I hadn't done any revising for it at all.
Tape script 2.13.
What awful shoes! What a fantastic view! How amazing!
Tape script 2.14. 1.
I've just won $25,000 on the lottery.
2.
Let's have a long coffee break.
3.
Maria, you wrote at Rome instead of in Rome.
4.
We were stuck in a traffic jam for 4 hours.
5.
Look at the state of the kitchen. It hasn't been cleaned for weeks.
6.
Rain, rain, rain.
7.
The teacher told us to learn the dictionary for homework.
8.
We hadn't heard from our daughter for a month. Then she phoned last night.
9.
My sister says it's possible to learn French in 3 months.
10.
Yesterday I got a tax bill for $20,000.
Unit 3. Tape script 3.1. 1.
Did you read that story about the guy who went over the Niagara Falls?
No, what happened to him? Did he die?
No, he survived, amazingly enough.
Really? But I suppose he was wearing some kind of protection.
That's the incredible thing. He was just wearing ordinary clothes. He just jumped in, fell down 180 feet, and somehow managed to avoid hitting the rocks.
That's amazing. What did he do it for?
Apparently, he just did it for a dare. He'd been talking about doing it for ages. His friends had bet him he wouldn't do it.
What a crazy guy.
You're not kidding. The strange thing is, before he jumped, people around him said he'd been smiling.
Wow, how weird.
2.
There was this story the other day about this woman mountain climber.
Uh-huh. What about her?
Well, she was stuck on top of a mountain, and she only managed to escape by sending text messages.
Gosh. Where did this happen?
In the Swiss Alps, I think. She was climbing with a partner. They'd been climbing for 3 hours when they got trapped in a terrible storm.
You're kidding.
No, but they built a shelter or something, and they hid in that.
Then what happened?
She started sending text messages to friends in London, and one of them sent a text back saying that the mountain rescue teams in Switzerland had been contacted.
Uh-huh.
They tried to find them, but the weather was too bad. Storms and everything.
Oh, no.
Anyway, they were rescued the next night, and now they're safe and sound.
Thank goodness for that.
3.
I was reading in the paper the other day about a schoolboy who hacked into the United States military computers.
No. Really? How old was he? 17, 18?
Actually, he was only 14.
How did he do it?
Well, he'd developed his own software program, and he'd been using this to download films and music from the internet.
I don't get it. What's that got to do with the US military?
Well, he'd figured that if he broke into these powerful military computers, he could use them to download stuff even faster. So he wasn't really trying to get to their secrets.
Oh, I see. I bet they were worried, though.
They were. They got in touch with Scotland Yard, and this boy was tracked down to his house in North London.
And he's only 14. They should give him a job.
Tape script 3.2.
He was wearing ordinary clothes. He'd been talking about doing it for ages. His friends had bet him he wouldn't do it.
She was climbing with a partner. They were rescued the next night.
Tape script 3.3.
This is the 6 o'clock news. 10 workers have been rescued from an accident 400 feet beneath the streets of London. They'd spent the past 36 hours trapped underground. They'd been digging a tunnel for a new underground line when the roof collapsed. 60 men managed to escape immediately, but 2 were fatally injured. Last night, the 10 men were recovering in hospital. An investigation into the cause of the accident is due to start tomorrow.
Tape script 3.4.
3 children who had been missing for 2 days have been found safe and well. The 3 10-year-olds, 2 boys and a girl, disappeared after school on Wednesday. Police had issued photographs of the 3 and had been searching nearby houses. They were eventually spotted by a neighbour who alerted the police. They said they'd slept out in a garden shed for a dare and hadn't realised the concern they'd caused.
Tape script 3.5. Books and films. Paul.
Certainly one of my favourite films is Witness. It's the one starring Harrison Ford, where he plays a detective who's investigating a murder that an Amish child has witnessed. And he has to protect the child, and to do that at one point he has to go and spend some time living with the Amish community. Now, the Amish community they're that religious group in America who live a very old-fashioned lifestyle. They have no modern gadgets, no modern technology, because their religion doesn't allow it. Now, Harrison Ford plays this very tough, hard-nosed city cop, and there are some wonderful scenes where his values and culture really clash with this very peaceful Amish community. It has a love story in it, because he falls in love with the boy's mother, who's Amish. It's very, very intense and passionate love story. And it's a thriller, because it deals with police corruption. And it's unbearably tense. And the build-up towards the end is incredible. It really, really does have you on the edge of your seat.
Kate.
I don't know if I'd say this is my favourite book, but this is certainly a book that made quite an impression on me. The book is called The Secret History, and it's by Donna Tartt. And without actually giving away entirely what happens in the story, The Secret History is about a group of students, and it's all about somebody's desire to belong to a group. And in fact, the group of students do something really, really terrible. They are involved in a murder. And you know right from the beginning of the novel that this is going to happen. And so you would think that there isn't any element of suspense because you know that somebody's going to die and you have some idea about how they're actually going to die. But in fact, the whole story is very, very claustrophobic. You feel sort of trapped inside the group and trapped inside their situation. It's completely compelling to read. It's not a comfortable read, but it was about 600 pages long and I read it in about a week. And I lived and breathed this book over that week. I would recommend it to anybody who wants to read something that psychologically is really dramatic.
Tape script 3.6. The Money Jigsaw.
Well, and one of those girls, Rachel Orman, is on the line now as we speak. Good morning to you, Rachel.
Good morning.
Extraordinary this. You saw these bits of banknotes just blowing in the wind.
Yeah, it was really out of the ordinary. Just walking to school and there's ripped up notes flying all over the floor. And then we traced it to a bin. So that's where the big bag was full of them.
What? How big a bag? I mean, like a bin bag or something?
No, actually not that big. It's about, I think it was like a Sainsbury's bag.
Uh-huh.
Like one of those.
And it was just jammed full of torn-up banknotes, what, 5s and 10s and that sort of thing?
Yeah, just 5, 10s, 20s.
And how little were the pieces?
Some were bigger than stamp sizes. But
Oh, that's small, though.
yeah, some were smaller.
And so what did you do? You took them to the police or something?
We had to go to school, so we went to school. And then after school we were playing outside around on the same road. And when the police arrived, we went over there and started talking to them and telling them when we found it.
And they took them away at that stage, did they?
Yeah.
And then what happened?
They kept them for a long time because there's a certain amount of months that they have to keep them before they can give them back.
Right.
And I think they went to the Royal Bank of England and to Scotland Yard. And when they said, yeah, it's real money, they gave it back and we could put it together.
Well, you say you put it together, but tiny bits of banknotes, it must have taken you forever to do it. I mean, what a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah, it's taken ages because it's been about a year and we still haven't finished.
Good. So how many have you got left now, then?
We have all the 5s to do and just a few 20s, but the 10s are all finished.
Extraordinary. How much time do you spend doing this?
Well, when we first got it, we did half an hour a day.
Uh-huh.
But then as time passed, we just slowly died down and didn't do as much.
But I'm trying to picture you doing this. What do you do? Do you stick bits of sellotape or something, or do you stick them onto a piece of paper, or what?
Well, you get the 2 serial numbers, and then you have to get a little bit from the middle of the note. And so once you've got that, you just put sticky tape on the back of them so that they all stay together and put it in a bag.
Good heavens, and you're going to carry on doing it, eh?
Yeah.
And £1,200 so far.
Yeah.
And how much do you reckon you'll be worth at the end of it all?
I think if we stick to it, we could probably get about 2,000.
Well, I think you've earned every penny of it.
Yeah.
Rachel, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tape script 3.7.
Jade's got a new boyfriend. A new boyfriend? Good for her. Apparently, he lives in a castle. Does he? How amazing! Yes. She met him in Slovenia. In Slovenia? That's interesting. Unfortunately, he can't speak much English. Can't he? I thought everyone could these days.
Tape script 3.8.
Has she?
Does he? Did she? Are you?
Tape script 3.9. 1.
Sam wants to apologise.
Does he?
Yes. He's broken your mother's Chinese vase.
My mother's Chinese vase? Oh, no.
2.
We had a terrible holiday.
Did you?
Yes. It rained all the time.
Did it?
Yes. And the food was disgusting.
Was it? What a drag.
3.
I'm broke
Are you? How come?
because I just had a phone bill for £500
£500? Why so much?
because I have a girlfriend in Korea.
Do you? How interesting.
4.
It took me 3 hours to get here.
Did it?
Yes, there was a traffic jam 10 miles long.
10 miles long? That's awful.
Now I've got a headache.
Have you? Poor darling. I'll get you something for it.
5.
I'm on a mountain, watching the sunset.
Are you?
Yes, and I've got something very important to ask you.
Have you? What is it? I can't wait.
You'd better sit down. I'd like to marry you.
Marry me? Wow.
Unit 4. Tape script 4.1. 1.
Oh dear. It's not that I dislike him. I just don't love him. How can I tell him I don't want to marry him without hurting his feelings? Trouble is, I actually fancy his best friend.
2.
There's this group of lads, you see. They're always chasing me, and I don't think it's for fun. But I can't tell my mum and dad. If they find out, they'll go to the head teacher and complain, and that would make everything much worse.
3.
How do you tell someone when they look awful? That dress doesn't suit her at all, but I don't know how to tell her. She obviously thinks she looks great in it.
4.
Me and Emma are going clubbing, but I daren't tell my dad. He'd kill me. I've got an important exam next week and I haven't done a thing for it. I haven't a clue when I'll be back.
5.
I know I'm not really ill, but it's a beautiful day, and I don't want to sit in a stuffy office all day. I'm off to play golf. I never have days off usually.
6.
I don't care who it is. I had a late night and I feel really rough this morning. Tell them I'm in an important meeting and I don't want to be disturbed at the moment.
Tape script 4.2. 1.
Who did she give it to?
2.
What do you want to have a word about?
3.
Who did you dance with?
4.
What do you need it for?
5.
Who did you get it from?
6.
Who did you buy it for?
7.
What are you thinking about?
8.
Where do you want to lift to?
Tape script 4.3. 1. A.
Don't you like pizza? How unusual.
B.
Can't you swim? I thought everybody learned to at school these days.
C.
Hasn't the postman been yet? It's nearly midday.
2. A.
Haven't we met somewhere before? Wasn't it in Paris?
B.
Wasn't it your birthday last week? Sorry, I forgot.
C.
Isn't that Hugh Grant over there? You know, the actor. I'm sure it is.
Tape script 4.4. 1.
Don't you like ice cream?
No. I know it's weird, but I never have done. Not even vanilla.
2.
Don't you like learning English?
No, actually, I don't. I think it's really difficult.
3.
Don't you like your neighbours?
Well, they're all right, but they make a lot of noise.
4.
Haven't you ever been abroad?
Not really. I went to Scotland once. That's not really abroad, is it?
5.
Haven't you got a TV at home?
No. We must be the only people in the whole world without a telly.
6.
Isn't it Tuesday today?
Yep, it follows on from Monday.
7.
Isn't this your pen?
No, it isn't actually. Mine's blue. That's black.
8.
Didn't you go to the States last year?
You bet. All down the East Coast from Boston to Florida.
9.
Aren't you going to the races next weekend?
Uh-huh. And I bet I'll lose a fortune. Hey-ho.
Tape script 4.5. My Mate Norman. Part 1.
My mate Norman's a funny guy. He's an insomniac, he's dyslexic, and he's an atheist. He's single, unemployed, and lives all alone in a tiny one-roomed flat without even a pet for company. Also, he's vegetarian and teetotal. He's pretty antisocial, actually.
Part 2.
I went round to see him last Sunday. As I walked up the drive, his dog started barking. His wife answered the door, and she called for Norman to come downstairs and join us in the living room. He was in a bad mood because he'd overslept that morning, and he'd been late for church. He also had a bit of an hangover, which he told me was the result of a wild party that they'd had at his house the night before. All his friends from his office were there. They'd had a barbecue in the garden with steaks and burgers. One of his favourite pastimes is doing crosswords, and while he was talking to me, he was doing one of those big puzzles from the newspaper. "So how are you, Norman?" I asked him. "K.O., mate, K.O. How about you?" Anyway, as I said, Norman's an insomniac, dyslexic atheist. So the joke is that he lies awake all night wondering about the existence of dog. Get it?
Tape script 4.6. My most memorable lie. 1. Andrew.
Well, one lie I can remember from when I was younger was when, with a friend in the basement of my house, we were playing pool because we had a pool table down there and decided to smoke our first cigarettes, these fantastic gold-filtered cigarettes I remember were quite expensive. And halfway through the second or third cigarette, my dad came home, who was very anti-smoking, and we stubbed out our cigarettes and pushed them through a kind of grate underneath the window. And he found them about a day later, and he asked me if if I knew what these cigarette stubs were all about, if I'd been smoking. And I completely denied all knowledge of these cigarettes, and in fact pool and the basement and everything else.
2. Paul.
I have one memory of regularly lying as a child, and ironically it was to a priest, which sounds a bit alarming, but I was brought up Catholic, and from the age of 7 you had to go to confession every week and confess your sins. And when you're that age, first of all, you're not quite sure what a proper sin is, and also you just can't remember, and every week you had to go in and tell the priest some sins that you'd committed. So of course it's quite common that what you end up doing is actually making things up. You say, "I swore and I stole some biscuits from the pantry in the kitchen," and bizarrely what you end up doing is lying to the priest so that you've got something to say in your confession.
3. Carolyn.
I can think of a time recently when I had to tell a white lie, which was basically when a friend of mine got married. They actually got married in America because his wife's American, so I didn't go to the wedding, but they were showing me the photos. And basically she looked absolutely awful. She had a really horrible dress on that really did nothing for her figure and didn't suit her at all, and just looked much older than she really is and quite frumpy. But yeah, so obviously you can't say that when you see someone's wedding pictures. So I said, "That's really pretty, you look really lovely." Felt really horrible as a result.
4. Kiki.
One lie I can remember telling was when I lost a necklace that my grandmother had made for me, especially. It had a K on it. And I know where I lost it. I lost it at a party because I was having a very good time and wasn't taking care of it. And I lied and told her it had been stolen in a robbery we had at our house. And to this day, I've never told her what happened to it. But sometimes when she mentions things like, "Oh, I should get you another one," it comes back to me.
5. Sean.
The first lie I can really remember was when I was at school. I must have been about 5 or 6 years old. And I was in the playground. And I was just about to get into a fight. And the only way I could think of defending myself was to say, "You can't hit me. I go to judo lessons." And I don't know where it came from. I'd never done judo in my life. And I wasn't even sure what judo was. But people left me alone because I thought I did judo. But then people started taking an interest. They asked me where I went and when the lessons were, how much they cost. And eventually somebody's mother rang my mother to get details of these judo lessons, which was when I had to admit that it was all a lie, and it was a bit embarrassing, really.
6. Kate.
I do remember possibly the first time I told a lie as a child, because it had some rather unpleasant consequences. This happened when I was about maybe 4 or 5 years old, and I had been playing with the dressing up box that we had in our children's playroom, which was an enormous box full of wonderful clothes, and you could be a princess, you could be a soldier, you could be whatever you found in the dressing up box. And I was playing with our pet cat, and I put him in the box and I left him there, and I shut the lid for hours and hours and hours, and I was 4 or 5, I forgot about him, and I went off and did something else and didn't think any more of it. And when my mother asked after the cat, struck with horror, I lied and said that I hadn't seen him and I hadn't played with him, and I probably said, and I didn't put him in the dressing up box, because my mother went and found him. And I do remember telling this lie because I was spanked for it.
Tape script 4.7. 1.
Gary's a really successful businessman.
Yeah, but he's a complete failure as a family man. He never sees his children.
2.
My granddad's so generous, he gives me £20 every time I see him.
Lucky you. My granddad's famous for his meanness. A £5 every birthday, if he remembers.
3.
Well, Henry, I'm pleased there's been some improvement in your behaviour this term, but sadly your work has got worse.
Didn't I do OK in the test then?
4.
You're not going bungee jumping. It sounds really dangerous.
No, honestly, it's safe enough as long as you're careful.
5.
Our teacher is always criticising us. I feel useless.
I know. It's not fair. He should give us more encouragement if he wants us to work hard.
Tape script 4.8. 1.
What a boring party.
You're right. It wasn't exactly an exciting evening.
2.
I don't know about you, but I thought the holiday was awful.
Well, it wasn't the most fun I've had.
3.
I can't believe how mean Jane is.
I suppose she's not famous for her generosity.
4.
That was one hell of a difficult exam. I couldn't do a thing.
Too right. I've seen easier papers.
Tape script 4.9. 1.
I'm sorry to bother you, but could you possibly change a £10 note?
Have you got change for a £10 note?
2.
Where's the station?
Could you tell me where the station is, please?
3.
This is a present for you.
For me? Oh, how kind. You shouldn't have, really. Thank you so much.
This is a present for you.
Thanks.
4.
Can you come to a party on Saturday?
No, I can't.
Can you come to a party on Saturday?
Oh, what a pity. I'm already going out, I'm afraid.
Oh, well, never mind.
But thanks for the invitation anyway.
5.
Excuse me, do you mind if I sit down here?
No, not at all.
Is anyone sitting here?
No.
6.
Can you give me a hand? I need to carry this box upstairs.
OK, if you like.
I wonder if I could possibly ask you a favour. Would you mind helping me with this box?
No, not at all.
Tape script 4.10.
Could you possibly close the window, please?
Tape script 4.11. 1.
Do you think you could give me a lift to the station?
I'm terribly sorry, I can't. I have to be at work by 8:30. I'll order you a taxi, though.
2.
Could you possibly help me find my glasses? I can't find them anywhere.
Sorry. I'm afraid I have to dash or I'll miss the bus. I'm hopeless at finding things anyway.
3.
Hi. Listen, would you like to come round for a meal tomorrow evening? I'm cooking Chinese.
Oh, I'd love to, but I'm afraid I'm already going out.
Oh, what a shame. Another time, perhaps.
4.
Would you mind lending me your dictionary?
I would if I could, but I'm afraid I forgot to bring it with me today. Sorry.
5.
Hi, it's Susan here. Could I ask you a big favour? I wonder if you could look after my dog next week. I'm going on holiday.
I'm terribly sorry, Susan, but I can't. I'd love to have Molly. You know I adore dogs. But I'm going away myself for a few days.
6.
Do you happen to know where the toilet is?
Sorry, I'm afraid I've no idea. Ask the guy serving drinks. He'll know.
7.
Would you like me to help you with this exercise? I think I know the answers.
Oh, that's really kind of you, but I want to try and work it out for myself. Thanks anyway.
8.
Excuse me, would you mind not whistling?
I'm sorry, I didn't realise I was.
That's okay.
Tape script 4.12.
Kim, hello. Great to see you. Come on in. Let me take your coat.
Thanks very much. Oh, these are for you.
What lovely flowers. How kind of you. Thank you so much. Now, I don't think you know Henry. Let me introduce you. Henry, this is Kim.
Hello, Kim. Nice to meet you. I've heard a lot about you.
Oh, I hope it was all good.
Where exactly are you from, Kim?
Well, I'm Canadian. I was born in Saskatoon, but I've been working in the US for the last couple of years.
That's interesting. And what are you doing in London?
Work, I'm sorry to say. Actually, I'm on my way to Amsterdam for a conference, and I thought I'd stop over in London to see Anna and Ben. We used to work together in New York.
And how do you find London, Kim? Is it like home, or is it very different?
Well, it's very different from Saskatoon and New York. I know London quite well, actually. I always love it here.
Now, Kim, what would you like to drink?
Oh, could I have a beer? No, sorry, I'll have a glass of red wine, if that's okay.
Right. I'll just get that for you.
Thanks.
Right, everybody, dinner's ready. Come and sit down. Kim, can you sit next to Henry?
Yes, of course.
Has everyone got a drink?
Yep.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers. It's great to be here.
Kim, help yourself. Would you like some Parmesan parsnips?
Parmesan parsnips? I don't think I've ever had them. What are they?
Well, they're parsnips coated in Parmesan cheese and roasted. Would you like to try some?
Well, I'd love to, but I'd better not. Cheese doesn't always agree with me.
Oh, another glass of wine, perhaps?
No, I'm all right, thanks very much. But do you think I could have a glass of water?
Yes, of course. Sparkling or still?
Just tap water would be fine. That's great. Thanks a lot.
Well, bon appetit, everyone.